You're watching Set Life Season 4.
Hey guys, welcome to Set Life. Today I am sitting with a dear friend of mine that I have been trying to get on the show for a hot minute. And so I'm so glad to introduce y'all to Trudy Simmons, who has been doing the Christian View for, what has it been, Trudy? How long have you been doing it?
8 years.
8 years. 8 years. And you just concluded that season,
I
right?
did. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, here on the show, we talk about inspiring stories of the entertainment industry. And I just want to jump right into your story. You know, like, how did you get into this? Why did you get into this industry? What do you think you're going to do from here and all of that? But let's go all the way back to when you got into the industry. What was that like? Did you always know you were going to do this?
You know, I didn't because, no, I didn't. I really didn't. I was like, I was very quiet and shy and very much an introvert. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to be in front of TV. And then in front of a camera and in front of people. And then one day the Lord just put it in my heart. Yes, I'm going to put you on TV. And it started with me being an aerobic instructor and putting me in front of people. And this guy came up to me one day when we were living in London. And he's like, you know, it's interesting how the Lord just weaves everything together. You say you don't like to be in front of people and out in front, but yet you're leading people all day long in their health and wellness side of life. And so he goes, it's just interesting how the Lord is going to continue to take you further and farther. So that was kind of like my very first word spoken over me, is that the Lord was going to take and use this fitness side industry and move me forward to be on a platform. So it started years ago, but I was like, no, I don't speak well. I don't know the Bible well. And no, but God said, you know, he had something different for me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay. So shy, coming from a shy place, and then somebody speaking truth over you, you just jumped in and did a show?
No, that is so not true. So what I did was I got ahead of God. Have you ever done that? I got ahead of God and started my own little show called Everyday Living with Dr. Trudy. I was like, okay, if I'm supposed to do a show, I'm going to just do a show, you know, and sometimes we say yes to God and his will, but we don't say yes to his ways, right? We say yes and then we jump in and we want to make everything happen right then. And so I started Everyday Living with Dr. Trudy, and Amber, it was horrible. It was horrible. In fact, I've tried to go on YouTube and delete most of them because they were that bad. Um, and,
Well, I think
and
we've all
anyway,
been
so
there,
I
right, as a creator?
think so. It was so bad. And so I laid that down. I'm like, okay, I must have not heard God right. So I laid it down. And I had this idea to do a show called like The View, like the secular view. And I approached some people about it and it just didn't pan out. And then a couple of years later, someone kind of started the show, kind of like what I was thinking. And I asked if I could be part of the show. And they're like, no, you're not what we're looking for. You know? And so I was like, okay, well, I guess that's just not what it's supposed to be. And then 2 years later, the producer of that show called and asked if I would be part of the panel of the show. And I was like, well, let me think about it. Okay, yeah. So, because, you know, the Lord had spoken that over me and I knew he had. And so I talked with my husband and he's like, yeah, you just need to do it. And then after I said yes to being on the panel, the producer decided she wanted to step down. And I had been on the panel for about a year and I stepped up to the executive producer and host of the show. So I had been on the panel of the Christian View for about a year before I took on the full role of producer and host.
Yeah, that's so awesome. You know, I love hearing your story of how you just took the leap of courage. Like you heard something from the Lord and then you went and followed it, even then when it didn't make sense, or it was against your nature that you felt like, okay, I have been friends with you for, I don't know, like 5, 6 years, something like that. And the whole time I've known you, I wouldn't have not have said you were shy. Like you're full of life and energy and bubbly and talk to everybody when we go places and stuff like that. So I think it's interesting how we see ourselves or perceive ourselves, and then how we step out of that box to try to do something the Lord's asked us to do. But I think he's always growing us and stretching us. So I think it's great that you had the courage to do that and step into that role, even when you didn't understand it. I think that's kind of what obedience is.
I think it is. It's obedience. We say yes even though we don't know the outcome. I mean, I had never produced a show in my life. I had never I never hosted a show. And I remember Amber sitting on the panel, and there was one of the other co-hosts, and he kept like nudging me to talk. He's like, "You have to talk. You have to talk when you're up here." And so when I took it over, it was kind of like I was the least likely of the ones to take it over. But I think sometimes we get stuck and out of fear, and we don't want to move forward because,
Yeah.
like I said, growing up with like a speech impediment and a learning disability, for me to go from that to this
Yeah.
had to be
Yeah.
a leap of faith, and had to just be a total trust of God, and letting, free falling into what he would want me to free fall into. But I think by nature, we like to keep it safe. We like to stay in
Yeah.
our little comfortable little boxes. But like you said, growth does not happen in comfort. And so if we
Yeah.
want to grow in the Lord and we want to become all he's created us to be, we've got to take that leap of faith and jump, not knowing where we're going to land.
So true. So true. So what I think's amazing again is you took this leap, you stepped into it, you started a show, you started with what you had in your hand, which I think is brilliant. I say that all the time on this show. I say it everywhere that I go. You just got to start with what's in your hands, and then allow the Lord to work and multiply whatever's in your hands. So you started that show, then you kept seeking, and then you got on the show. Then eventually he led you into producing the show. And then you didn't just kind of do that. You did that to an excellent standard. You've done that for 8 years. And the show went on to have great successes in its lane and all of that. So do you think that you need to have everything perfect and together before you can step into this industry and into this kind of career?
Oh my gosh, absolutely not. I mean, just the fact that my screen is dark and I don't have my studio set up properly. No, I think when God calls us to do it, we're to be obedient, and he is in control of the results, right? We say yes, we go and we do, and then he provides and he opens the doors. But I think if we waited until everything was right, we'd never start,
Mm-hmm.
because I think
Mm-hmm.
perfection can kill a lot of dreams and keep a lot of people in bondage, because we're never going to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to
Mm-hmm.
look like what we thought it was going to look like. It's normally better than what we think, but if we
Mm-hmm.
never start, we'll never know.
That's right. If we don't ever start, we'll never know. So true. What do you think that one of the keys to your success with the show was?
Um, I think, just getting up every day and giving it to the Lord, because this industry is not easy, and you know
Mm.
that. But
Yeah.
if we try to do it on our own strength, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
And if we give it to the Lord every single day and say, okay, this is what you called me to do, I'm trusting you to fulfill it, and you're going to do it through me, because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about him. No matter if
Mm-hmm.
it's in the secular world that we're taking our ministry to, or in the Christian world, it's not about us. And if we make it
Mm-hmm.
about us, then um it's not going to last.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the keys that I've learned is the perspective in what you bring in doing something. When you carry the weight, like the name of the studio is For the One,
Mhm.
when you carry the weight of whatever you're being asked to do, is like you're going to save the world or change the world or reach millions of people, like you carry that weight versus saying, you know what, if my voice, what God's given me, helps change one person,
Mm.
helps encourage one person, helps enlighten the world by one person, I've done what he's asked me to do. You know, that the success lies in what the Lord's asking you to do versus what the world perceives that to be. Because sometimes what I think is a worldly success, it says in scripture, can be eaten up by the moths or withered away.
Yes.
Yet the things of the kingdom that we do last for eternity, is stored up in heaven, gaining riches there. And so that's just not measured this side. So I think your obedience here to do what you've done with that show and stepping into this industry has its worldly successes, but I think the kingdom impact, the riches in which you stored up in heaven, are far exceeding what we could ever do here, you know. And I think that's a perspective.
No, I think that is absolutely true. Someone reached out to me the other day, Amber, and they're like, "Are you still doing the show?" And I'm like, "No, it's that has, you know, that side of the ministry has stopped." And he's like, "Well, I just want you to know that you may not know how much you've impacted the kingdom until you get to heaven. You may not get those thank yous, you may not get those
Yeah.
accolades, but when you get to heaven, that's when you're going to see
Yeah.
the fruit that you made here on earth." And so he's like, "I just want to encourage you to keep going, because you just don't know, because that one person will go talk to someone else and someone else, and so it's a domino effect of how many people you can actually reach."
What would you say to somebody who is wanting to get into the industry and create a show like you've created? What would be a tip you would give them?
I would say my biggest lesson learned, I think, is keep an audience of one, because so many people have so many opinions, and you can
That's the
get
truth.
so lost in what everyone else thinks you should do, you know, feels you should do. And you become like a ping pong back and forth. And it says, you know, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So don't look to the world when you're trying to do what God's called you to do, because you're going to get confused. So keep an audience of one and then just keep moving forward. Kind of like when I do Ironman races, the swimming is the most peaceful part of the race, because your head is down and you're focused and you can't hear the chatter and you can't see anybody. So you're just going. And that's how I feel like if God's called you to this, then you just put your blinders on, keep your focus on Him, and you just keep going forward.
That's so good. I love that. I love the fact that you kind of have to shut out the other voices and allow yourself to just hear that one voice. Because what I have learned is you're most likely not going to fully understand it, because then if
Right.
you did, you wouldn't trust him to do it. And that's where I've been like, I had no idea what this was or anything about it. So I had to trust him with everything. And I love that, you know, he takes the ordinary to do the extraordinary. And it was like one day I had this awe of like, I'm so ordinary. This is amazing. And so, you know, it's trusting in the fact that he's already equipped you with everything that he's about to ask you to do, and trust in that, even though you can't see it, you know. But if we listen to everyone else, they'll convince us otherwise.
Right.
They'll be the first. And, you know, it's funny because I hate to say this, but I'm just bluntly honest. It's always the ones that are close to you that are like, shoot, you can't do that. Like, who do you think you are? Why do you think you can do that? You can't even remember to grab your purse when you leave, much less are you going to remember all of the things you got to do for. I mean, it's like they just say all these things. But if you look at Jesus's life, I mean, he wasn't welcomed in his own hometown. Everybody that was close to him was all like, you're not the Messiah. I mean, they were walking with a perfect human, and we are so far from perfect. And so easy for them to say that about us because we're not perfect. But I mean, really, honestly, what could they have said about Jesus? He was perfect in every way, you know? So it just goes to show that there are going to be those that are close to you that are going to be the naysayers and the doubters and all of that. But we can't hate them for that or like hold a grudge towards it. I think there's a kind way to just say, I'm trusting and I'm choosing not to ask for those opinions, and I'm not choosing to open those doors. I'm going to trust, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other with the Lord. I'm going to use what I have in my hands
Right.
and go create the call that he's put on my life to do what he's asked me to do, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the only way you can do it, because we'll get bogged down by, like you said, the naysayers. And if you think about Jesus, one minute they are saying Hosanna, Hosanna, and the next minute they're crying crucify, crucify. And so if we live by people's approval, then we're going to die by their criticism. And so we've got to learn, like I said, to keep, I mean, that's so huge, to keep that audience of one, because
Mm-hmm.
the everything else is just fleeting.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest fears in this industry, because you're going to be on camera. Other people are going to see you. You're being put out front. So you're opening yourself up to criticism by nature of this industry.
Right.
Like, I don't know how many times I've said it, that I've just kind of been like, okay, Lord, let's do everyone else. Okay. Can I make shows for everyone else? Can I do things for everyone else? I'm good back here. I'm good owning the studio. I'm good creating. I'm good producing. I'm good being back here behind the scenes, because then I don't also take the fiery arrows and all the criticism. So I know that there is fear in that, but deep inside of you, you've got to just really, I feel like I had to do a lot of praying and a lot of looking at it, like you're saying, is just look at the Lord. A matter of fact, on my screensaver, I have this picture, and it's this like warrior girl staring at a lion, which for me is Jesus,
Right.
as my screensaver. Like, just lock my eyes in on him right now, because if I look any other way, I'm too vulnerable to just go like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Like,
right.
I'm seeing everything around me, and I don't want to do that. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm like, okay, if I just can, like when you're saying you're swimming, just focus on him and look him in the eyes. Literally, I feel like you're like that whole 10-foot tall bulletproof. You're just like,
Right.
okay, I can do this,
I
So
can do
it's
this.
that perspective and fixing your eyes on it.
I mean, I think, and then you remember who's got your back, right?
Yeah.
When your eyes are focused, kind of like the picture of the lion, even if be looking in a mirror, you know who's got your back, and that is Father God. And if he is for you, then who can really stand
Be
against you?
against you.
The enemy wants, and I've fallen prey to this, but the enemy wants us to be so hooked in on everyone liking us and pleasing everyone and fitting in. But he didn't call us to fit in. He called us to stand out for his glory, but we get in that trap of, I've got to please everyone. And if people don't like me, then I must be doing something wrong. And in reality, we're probably doing something right.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other fears is like, what else? I mean, what do I have to say? Like, everybody's already said so much, but nobody's going to have said it like you say it.
Right.
And the experience that you've had that reaches the generation and the people that you're supposed to reach. So it's, our voices matter. And I think right now it is crucial that we are able to stand up and speak in a kind, loving way. I say it all the time. Whatever makes you mad, whatever makes you sad, whatever makes you glad, somewhere in there is probably a calling on your life. And for me, one of the things that made me so furious was those who, Jesus is my best friend. Everybody's heard me say that on this show like a million times, but who made it hard for me to talk about my best friend, the people that were standing up and speaking of him in a light that wasn't so kind and loving and nurturing like he is. And then those who weren't saying anything. They were the shy ones. They were the ones that weren't like being obedient and stepping up and using their voice for the Lord. So it just really was a birthing place, honestly, for me building this place and giving platforms like this so that our voices could be heard and they could be listened to bring freedom and hope and healing and encouragement to others. It takes all of our voices, but not just one. That would be so boring if we all listened to just one person, but being able to give everybody a place to have a voice because everyone's voices matters. If you are breathing air, you've got a purpose.
Right.
And you have a
Absolutely.
voice that needs to be heard in a way. And I just think that's a really awesome, cool thing to acknowledge and learn how to use in the right way and give people the vehicle to do that, to be able to be heard, you know. But I think we need to rise up and let our voices be heard right now and today.
Amen. I do too. I do too. I think it's time. The Lord has kind of been dealing with me on a couple of things. I shared a little bit with you before, but just on not being so nice, but being bold. I mean, I think you can be bold and nice, but I think sometimes we get into the trap of being too nice and being too concerned again with what people think and what people say, that
Yeah.
we become doormats.
Yeah.
And in this time and season of life, we're not called to be, well, I'm not called to be a doormat. And I don't think anybody else is. I think we are to rise up and walk in that boldness and walk in the authority that Christ has given us, because we are we're his voice, and we
Yeah.
need to be bolder and walk in that power, walk in that authority, and not walk in lack or defeat.
Yeah. I had a really great kind of analogy the other day about our uniqueness and boldness, and how if you have a key and on the key it has the jagged teeth on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the uniqueness of that key. If you look at a riverbed, so remember the key, and then you go to a riverbed and the current that goes over all of the rocks, if you go one level deep, not the top rocks, but the one level deep, you'll see all the little pebbles are all about the same size, flat, smooth, all looking the same, because the current has run over them for so long that it has shaved off all of its uniqueness.
Right.
And they're all conformed to a bed of pebbles. So a key, God's given each of us a key that we unlock certain things, our potential and the things in the world today. And if we conform so long, so much, we will wear off the unique teeth of the key, and we become a smooth key that fits all the doors but unlocks nothing.
Right.
And we don't want to become that. You were uniquely made. Your voice was uniquely purpose driven. So we have to embrace our uniqueness. We have to embrace our flaws. We have to embrace the differences in us and boldly be in confidence in that, and wrap everything we have to say in love, so that we unlock the potential that God has placed us here for. That's my opinion. And that is one of the hardest things in this industry, is to truly come authentically yourself with all your flaws, all your experiences, and not conform to what the world says this is what's successful or that's what's successful. If you look at the shows that are doing so well today, if you look at the media that's doing so well today, it's because they are unashamedly, authentically themselves.
Right.
And the world loves it, because we live now in a world where so much of this is uncertain, unreal, because like AI, all the things that are coming, the next generation behind us, they'll have no idea what is actually real and authentic.
Right. Yeah.
So it's so important for us to show up authentically in our voice, I think, today.
Yes. I mean, I completely agree. I was watching something on YouTube yesterday, and he was talking about the top 5 shows that on YouTube that are out right now. And they are all real shows. They're not, doesn't have anything fancy. They're out in the woods. They're doing walks. And he said people want to communicate. They want relationship right now
Yeah.
over anything else, because there's so much lack of that, because like you said, people don't know what's real. So I think it was the top 5 were about people who are, like I said, out in the woods or walking down a trail, just actually talking and communicating. It was kind of refreshing. I like that, because I do think we don't need to hide behind mask anymore, Amber. And I think for a long time, we've hidden behind a mask of insecurities and fears and doubts. But now, like you said, show up with all of our flaws, because we all have them. We all have
Yeah.
issues that we're dealing with. We're all, we close the door at night and we're struggling in some form or fashion. And
Mm-hmm.
to be real and authentic is going to bring hope and healing to a world that just is in chaos and confusion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. You know what came to my mind with you talking was, I don't know. I used to take this as a compliment when I was going through something really, really hard and personally in my life. And then time would pass and I would tell people that were around me, oh, this happened in my life, or I sorry, I was just going through this. They were like, what? We had no idea. Like you were going through that. I'm so sorry. And I was kind of like, yeah, no, it's good. I'm past it now, and I'm thinking, huh, I don't know that that's actually good that I can put on such a front that nothing's going wrong in my life when all the while everything is falling apart
Right.
in my personal life.
Right.
It's like, no, I just want to live who I am
Mhm.
to the fullest of who I am. And some days are teetotal, what kind of days. And some days are good days.
Yeah.
But to be able to authentically say that and have the freedom to say today's not the greatest day and I'm going through some things, is where we have to get to. I think that's when you are living the fullest, you
Yeah, I
know?
think that there's freedom in that. And I mean, no one has 365 days of great days. Yesterday, I went to the doctor and I had to get blood work done, which is the typical thing that I do for because I have Graves' disease. But I started crying, Amber, at the doctor's office because for the last year I had taken my dad to his cancer treatments and
Mm,
had to watch him give blood, and it just hit me out of the blue and I just
yeah.
started crying. I'm like, so Brian asked me, well, how was your day? I was like, well, you know what, I cried all day because of this wave of emotions
Yeah.
that came from dealing with the loss of someone that I really love. And I think, you know, people, not all people, a lot of people are afraid. They don't know how to
Yeah.
handle when people are hurting. They think they've got to say something, they think they've got to fix it,
Yeah.
but they really don't. They just have to be there and maybe listen or say,
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of understand, but you don't have to have all the answers for someone who's struggling. So I think, if people could just give themselves a break as well, and say,
Yeah.
I don't
So
have
good.
the answers, but I love you and I'll love you through it,
Yeah. So
then
good.
that opens up more of an opportunity for the other person to be real,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
be able to experience their feelings,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we've been told for a long time, don't feel, you shouldn't have those
Yes.
emotions. You shouldn't struggle
Yes.
with that, especially as Christians. Oh gosh, they're in a better place because they're in heaven. So you should be
Yeah.
happy. But I'm like, but my heart's grieving.
But I'm
My
here.
heart's sad because he's not here. So
Yeah.
just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I'm lacking faith because my heart's hurting. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
giving each person the freedom to feel what they feel and to
Mm-hmm.
not condemn them for that is huge. And I do think that often opens up another realm of being authentic and real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that's when healing takes place.
Yes. I agree. I agree. You know, Trudy, you've just got so many great wisdoms. I know your show has, deposited so many great wisdoms throughout the world and all the places that it's been aired. And, I hate that the season's over for you in that, but I'm so excited for what's next for you and that all that you're putting together right now. To release and launch and do. I'm super excited for that for you.
Thank you.
I've been your biggest cheerleader. I'll stay your biggest cheerleader, and I just appreciate you coming on the show today and visiting with us and being real with us and encouraging the audience to be authentically themselves and show up and take the leap of faith even when you don't understand it and go do good, great things for the Lord. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I love you so much. And thanks for having me. It's been great.
Where can people find you?
Well, I still have the YouTube channel, so the Christian View TV YouTube channel, and then they can follow me on social media, Dr. Trudy Simmons or the Christian View.
Okay. Well, y'all, she will reach back out to you. I know if you reach out to her, she's a good one. So y'all give her a shout and y'all connect, because that's what we're here to do, is connect together and encourage each other. But until then, we'll see you on Set Life.